The hologram flickered to life in the war room, and Queen Helena Cross felt her blood turn to ice. The Krethian ambassador's reptilian features twisted into what passed for a smile among his kind, but there was no warmth in those yellow eyes. Only contempt. You have 48 hours, the Krethian said, his translator rendering his hissing speech into cold, mechanical English. Withdraw from all outer colonies. Transfer control of your resource stations. Submit to Krethian authority, or we will take what we want by force. Helena's fingers whitened on the armrest of her chair. Around the table, her military advisors sat in stunned silence. Admiral Lisa Grant broke it first. Your Majesty, this is madness. They're demanding complete capitulation. I'm aware, Admiral. Helena's voice was steady, but inside, rage built like a gathering storm. Show me Proxima 4. A technician's hands flew across controls and the hologram shifted. What appeared made several council members gasp. The colony on Proxima 4 was burning. Krethian warships hung in orbit like vultures, and the surface below was scarred with impact craters. 12,000 colonists had lived there yesterday. Now, according to the scattered emergency transmissions, fewer than 300 remained. They didn't wait for our answer, Helena whispered. They started killing us before the ultimatum even arrived. Your Majesty, we need to negotiate, said Ambassador Chen, his face pale. The Krethian Empire spans 40 systems. We can't fight them. No one can. Helen stood slowly, her eyes never leaving the burning world on the screen. She was 53 years old, and she had spent the last 15 of them preparing for this exact moment. The galaxy thought humanity was weak. They thought Earth's peaceful expansion, its diplomatic overtures, its restrained military presence were signs of a species that couldn't defend itself. They were wrong. Activate Protocol, Reaper, Helena said quietly. The room fell silent. Admiral Grant's eyes widened. Your Majesty, are you certain? Once we start, there's no going back. They murdered 12,000 of our people. As an opening statement, Helena said, her voice hard as steel. They wanted to see what humanity does when pushed. I'm going to show them. She turned to face her advisors, and several of them flinched at the expression on her face. Send the activation codes. All of them. Every hidden shipyard. Every classified weapons platform, every special operations team we've kept in the shadows for the past 20 years. The Krethians want war? They're gonna get more war than they can handle. Admiral Grant stood, her own expression hardening. It will be done, Your Majesty. And send a message to the Krethian Emperor, Helena continued. Tell him that humanity accepts his declaration of war. Tell him we will not stop until his empire is ash in memory. Tell him that he has unleashed hell itself. Within 6 hours, the galaxy began to change. Across 17 star systems, massive shipyards that had been disguised as mining operations suddenly came online. Warships emerged from asteroid belts where they'd been hidden for years, their hulls painted the matte black of deep space, their weapon systems bleeding energy signatures that made alien sensors scream warnings. The first Krethian battle group to encounter them was stationed near the human colony of New Dakota. 50 Krethian warships, including 3 dreadnoughts, hung in formation around the planet, preparing to deliver the same ultimatum that had preceded the Proxima 4 massacre. Their commander, Battlemaster Vakesh, had fought in 16 campaigns across the galaxy. He'd broken the resistance of the Solarian Collective, crushed the Nephilim insurgency, and personally overseen the subjugation of 4 species. He was reviewing the deployment orders when his sensor officer made a sound of confusion. Battlemaster, I'm reading multiple contacts emerging from the asteroid field. Unknown configuration. Energy signatures are off the scale. Vakesh pulled up the tactical display and frowned. 47 ships had appeared seemingly from nowhere, and they were accelerating toward his formation at speeds that should have been impossible. Attempt communication, demand identification. Before his communications officer could respond, the unknown ships opened fire. What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations. The human ships didn't use conventional weapons. Their primary armament was something the Krethians had never encountered: A focused gravitational pulse that didn't just damage shields but collapsed them entirely, crushing them into nothing. Their secondary weapons were relativistic kinetic rounds accelerated to 98% of light speed. The first Krethian dreadnought died in 7 seconds. The gravitational pulse stripped away its shields, and the kinetic rounds punched through its armor like it was paper. The ship broke apart in a cascade of secondary explosions, spilling atmosphere and bodies into the void. Battlemaster Vekesh had 5 seconds to process what he was seeing before his own flagship shuddered under impact. Warning klaxons screamed. His shield officer was shouting something about gravitational collapse. His weapons officer was firing everything they had. But the human ships moved like nothing Vekesh had ever seen, dancing through Krethian fire with precision that seemed impossible. He managed to get a distress signal out before a kinetic round tore through his bridge. His last thought was that he'd made a terrible mistake. The Battle of New Dakota lasted 11 minutes. When it was over, 50 Krethian warships were debris, and the human fleet hadn't lost a single vessel. Survivors in escape pods were picked up not by their own forces but by human ships, and they were treated with correct cold efficiency. No torture, no murder, but absolutely no mercy either. They were prisoners now, and they would remain prisoners until this war was over. Commander Jake Morrison watched the recovery operations from the bridge of the HSS Vengeance, a stealth frigate that had been his home for the past 3 years. He was 34, lean and hard from constant combat training, with eyes that had seen too much. Behind him, his team of 12 operators checked their gear with the methodical precision of people who knew their lives depended on every detail. Clean sweep, his executive officer, Lieutenant Maya Torres, reported. All Krethian ships destroyed or disabled. Colony is secure. Good. Jake pulled up the tactical map showing the wider theater. Across human space, similar battles were erupting. The Krethians had positioned forces at 23 human colonies, expecting easy victories. Instead, they were being systematically annihilated. What's our next target? Command wants us to hit the Krethian listening post in the Arcturus sector. Intelligence suggests it's a major relay hub for their fleet communications. Jake smiled without humor. Then let's go introduce ourselves. The Vengeance slipped into hyperspace and Jake gathered his team in the briefing room. They were the best humanity had to offer. Maya Torres, a tactical genius who could see 3 moves ahead of any enemy. Leon Banks, a weapons specialist who could strip and rebuild any gun in the galaxy blindfolded. Sarah Kim, a combat medic who'd saved more lives than she'd taken, though her kill count was nothing to dismiss. 9 others, each a master of their craft, each utterly committed to the mission. Listen up, Jake said, activating the holographic display. The Krethians think this is going to be like their other wars. They think we'll fight by the rules, observe neutrality zones, respect civilian targets. They're wrong. Protocol Reaper means we do whatever it takes to win. We hit hard, we hit fast, and we don't stop until they break. Questions? Leon raised a hand. Rules of engagement? Neutralize any armed resistance. Capture command personnel if possible. Do not harm civilians, even Krethian ones. But if they fight, they die. Simple as that. The team nodded. They'd all seen the footage from Proxima IV. 12,000 human colonists slaughtered like animals. Whatever mercy humanity had once offered was gone now, burned away in the fires of Krethian aggression. The Arcturus listening post was a massive station built into the side of a dead moon. It bristled with defensive weapons and housed a garrison of 300 Krethian soldiers. Jake's team approached in a stolen Krethian supply ship, broadcasting clearance codes that intelligence had pulled from a captured database. The codes worked. The station's shields parted, allowing them to dock. 40 seconds later, the garrison realized their mistake. Jake's team moved through the corridors like a surgical strike, eliminating guards with silenced weapons and tactical precision. The Krethians tried to mount a defense, but they were used to fighting enemies who announced themselves, who gave warnings, who followed the established rules of warfare. Humans did none of those things. Jake reached the command center to find the station commander frantically trying to send a warning. One shot from Jake's sidearm ended that effort. The commander collapsed, and Jake moved to the main console, inserting a data spike that Maya had prepared. Within seconds, it was downloading the entire communications archive and uploading a virus that would spread to every Krethian military system it could reach. Package delivered, Jake reported over the comm. Exfiltrating now. They were back on the Vengeance 12 minutes after docking. The listening post exploded 8 minutes after that, Jake's demolition charges tearing it apart from the inside. 300 Krethian soldiers died, but Jake felt no guilt. They'd chosen to serve an empire that murdered civilians. They'd accepted the consequences. Across the galaxy, the Krethian Empire reeled. In the first week of the war, they lost 400 ships, 17 major installations, and over 30,000 soldiers. Human forces operated with a ferocity and efficiency that terrified every species watching. There were no grand fleet battles where the Krethians could bring their superior numbers to bear. Instead, human ships struck from nowhere, destroyed their targets, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. Human special operations teams infiltrated secure facilities, assassinated commanders, and sabotaged critical infrastructure. The Krethian Emperor Rathic sat on his throne on the capital world of Krathos Prime, watching reports flood in from every front. His military advisors argued among themselves, trying to make sense of what was happening. How had humanity hidden this capability? How had they developed weapons that made Krethian shields useless? Where were all these ships coming from? Your Radiance, his intelligence master said, bowing low. We've analyzed the human weapons technology. The gravitational pulse weapons appear to be based on theoretical research that most species abandoned decades ago. The humans somehow made it practical. Their ships use a propulsion system we can't identify. Their tactics suggest they've been planning this war for at least 20 years. Rathic's claws dug into the armrests of his throne. 20 years? Impossible. Our spies would have detected such preparations. I believe that was the point, Your Radiance. They deliberately appeared weak. They let us underestimate them. And now they're making us pay for that mistake. A communications officer interrupted. Your Radiance. We're receiving a transmission from Earth. It's from their queen. Put it through. Helena Cross appeared in hologram form, and Rathic was struck by the cold fury in her eyes. She looked like someone who'd decided to burn the galaxy down and was just getting started. Emperor Rathic, she said, her voice carrying across light years with perfect clarity. Your forces have murdered thousands of my people. You demanded our surrender. You thought we were weak. You were wrong. I am offering you one chance to end this. Complete an unconditional surrender of the Krethian Empire. Abdicate your throne. Stand trial for war crimes. These terms are non-negotiable. Rathic's advisors gasp at the audacity. The intelligence master looked like he might faint. Rathic himself felt rage surge through him. You dare? You command a fraction of our forces, hold a fraction of our territory. We will crush you. Helena smiled, and it was the most terrifying thing Rathic had ever seen. You're welcome to try, but know this. We will not stop. We will hunt your fleets across the stars. We will dismantle your empire. Peace. We will come for you, Emperor. And when we find you, you will kneel before me and beg for mercy you will not receive. You wanted to see what humanity does when pushed. Watch carefully. This is your only warning. The transmission ended. Rathic sat in silence for a long moment, then spoke quietly. Send the 5th, 9th, and 12th fleets to Earth. We will end this with overwhelming force. It was the worst decision of his life. The 3 fleets represented over 600 warships, the largest force the Krethian Empire had assembled in a generation. They converged on the Sol system, expecting to find a desperate defense, primitive weapons, and an easy victory. Instead, they found a killing field. Earth's defensive network was unlike anything in the known galaxy. Hundreds of orbital platforms, each equipped with the same gravitational pulse weapons that had devastated Krethian forces elsewhere. Dozens of massive capital ships that had been constructed in secret shipyards in the Kuiper Belt. Thousands of automated drones that swarmed enemy formations like angry insects. And supporting it all, a military doctrine that prioritized total victory over survival. The Battle of Sol lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Krethian armada was gone. 600 ships reduced to wreckage, their crews dead or captured. Human losses were 23 platforms and 4 capital ships. The galaxy watched the footage in stunned horror, and suddenly every species with any ambition toward human territory rethought their plans. Jake Morrison's team spent those 6 hours on Krethos Prime itself, having infiltrated the capital world 3 days earlier. While the galaxy's attention was focused on the massive fleet battle, Jake and his operators moved through the Emperor's palace like ghosts. They'd studied the layout for months, bribed or blackmailed their way past multiple security checkpoints, and now stood in the hall outside the throne room. "This is insane," Maya whispered over the tactical net. "Even for us. Insane is attacking Earth," Jake replied. "We're just finishing what they started. Ready?" His team confirmed ready status. Jake took a breath, then kicked in the door. The throne room was massive, designed to intimidate visitors with its sheer scale. Emperor Rathak sat on a throne of carved stone, surrounded by his elite guard. 20 Krethian warriors, each over 7 feet tall, each armed with weapons that could shred a human in seconds. They never got the chance. Jake's team moved with the precision of a machine, every shot placed with perfect accuracy. Guard after guard fell, their weapons clattering to the floor. Radek tried to run, but Sarah Kim put a stun round into his back, dropping him like a stone. In 15 seconds, the throne room was secure, the Emperor was unconscious, and Jake was already setting up the communications equipment. "Control, this is Morrison. Package secured. Ready for broadcast." Back on Earth, Queen Helena received the confirmation with grim satisfaction. "Patch him through to every major network in the galaxy. I want everyone to see this." The broadcast went live across thousands of worlds simultaneously. Beings of 100 different species watched as Helena Cross appeared on their screens, standing in what was clearly the Krethian throne room. Behind her, Emperor Rathak knelt on the floor, his hands bound, his head forced down in submission by a human soldier. "People of the galaxy," Helena said, her voice carrying the weight of history. "6 weeks ago, the Krethian Empire attacked humanity without provocation. They murdered our people, destroyed our colonies, and demanded our surrender. They believed we were weak. They believed we would submit. They were wrong." She walked to stand beside Rathak, looking down at him with contempt. "This war is over. The Krethian Empire is broken. Their fleets are destroyed, their military infrastructure is dismantled, and their emperor kneels before me as a war criminal awaiting trial. Let this be a lesson to any who would threaten humanity. We are not warriors by nature. We prefer peace, diplomacy, cooperation. But we are capable of violence beyond your darkest nightmares. And if you force us to show you that violence, we will not stop until you are utterly defeated." She paused, letting that sink in across the galaxy. "Humanity is claiming no Krethian territory. We seek no empire. But we will no longer tolerate aggression. Any species, any empire that attacks us or our allies will face the same fate as Krethos. This is not a threat. This is a promise." Helena looked directly into the camera, and billions of beings across the stars saw the absolute conviction in her eyes. The age of humanity's patience is over. "We gave you every chance to treat us as equals. You chose violence instead. Now you know what we truly are? Choose your next steps carefully." The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, diplomats scrambled to draft non-aggression pacts. Military commanders quietly shelved invasion plans. Politicians who'd spoken of human weakness suddenly found other topics to discuss. And on Earth, Helena Cross sat in her office, watching reports flood in of alien empires falling over themselves to establish peaceful relations. Admiral Grant entered without knocking, carrying a bottle of whiskey and 2 glasses. "We did it. They're terrified of us now." "Good," Helena said quietly. "Fear will keep them peaceful longer than diplomacy ever could." She accepted a glass, raised it in a silent toast. "To the 12,000 who died on Proxima 4, may they rest knowing their deaths weren't in vain." They drank in silence, and outside the window, Earth turned peacefully in the void, protected now not by hope or idealism but by the certain knowledge that humanity, when pushed, would push back harder than anyone could imagine. The galaxy had wanted to see what humans would do when their backs were against the wall. Now they knew. and they would never forget. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Vengeance, watching Krethos Prime recede in the distance. His team was exhausted, running on adrenaline and stubborn determination, but they'd completed their mission. The Emperor was in custody, the Krethian military was shattered, and humanity had sent a message that would echo across the stars for generations. "Think they'll learn?" Maya asked, standing beside him. Jake watched the stars slip past, thinking of all the battles fought, all the lives lost, all the violence humanity had unleashed when pushed too far. Some will, some won't, and maybe, just maybe, that'll be enough to keep the peace. The Vengeance jumped to hyperspace, carrying its crew home to a galaxy forever changed, where humanity was no longer seen as weak or vulnerable but as something far more dangerous, a species that preferred peace but was terrifyingly good at war. They'd shown the galaxy what humans truly were, and the galaxy had learned to fear them. It was a lesson written in fire and blood, and it would not soon be forgotten.